Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that Manitoba encompasses Treaty 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 territory, and communities who are signatories of Treaties 6 and 10. It is the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Aniniwak, Dakota, Dene, Aniniwak, and Nehethawuk, and the homeland of the Métis. Bonjour et merci de nous joindre à Voyage Manitoba pour ce webinaire afin de vous donner une mise à jour à nos partenaires de l'industrie du tourisme. Mon nom est Michel Larivière et je suis le spécialiste en marketing international à Voyage Manitoba. Nous discuterons aujourd'hui de l'impact de la crise du COVID-19 sur l'industrie du tourisme et nous vous donnerons une mise à jour sur les plans de reconstitution de l'industrie. If you have questions during today's webinar, feel free to write them in the question pane and we'll have time at the end to answer as many as we can. Si vous avez des questions, s'il vous plaît, utilisez la volet des questions et nous vous répondrons à la fin de la présentation. Je vais maintenant passer la parole au président directeur général de Travel Manitoba, Colin Ferguson. Colin, over to you.
Merci, Michel. Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this Road to Recovery industry webinar. Today, we're going to present an update on the state of the tourism industry, our plans to support the tourism industry's recovery in both the short and long term, as well as introduce our 2021 partnership opportunities. Now, regrettably, we all know that tourism has been deeply impacted by the pandemic, both around the world and certainly here in Manitoba as well. We expect to see significant losses in our tourism sector. And we are currently following 3 scenarios. Can I get the slide advance? There we go. 3 scenarios. They are baseline, downside, and upside scenarios as we look to forecast the industry's recovery. In the baseline scenario, we can anticipate recovery to 2019 levels by 2024. With sustained investment in tourism marketing, we are also forecasting to achieve a 50% increase to $2.5 billion in annual tourism revenues by the year 2030. But we know that the economic losses associated with visitor loss spending are severe and will mount through the years. In the baseline scenario, $1.8 billion in lost visitor spending would result through to 2024, $1.6 billion loss in GDP, $900 million lost in wages, and over $370 million lost in local and provincial tax revenue, and regrettably as well, the loss of some 4,000 jobs. Supporting the travel sector in its aim to realize an upside scenario will have major positive impacts for the province. Compared to the baseline scenario, the upside scenario would result in an additional $529 million in spending, a further $458 million in GDP, and another $91 million in provincial taxes over the same time frame. Now, hotel revenue across Canada was down 74% in September, and the recovery will be slow. Tourism economics estimates that room revenue will still be down 22% next spring and will not fully recover to 2019 levels until 2025. And overall, while hotel closures have so far been at a minimum in Manitoba, as best we know, this sector is under heavy financial stress, and we understand and continue to advocate for the need for continued government support. Another hard-hit sector is Manitoba's fishing and hunting operators, which sustain $65 million in Manitoba business sales, generating over 800 full-time jobs. These businesses rely heavily on international customers, and of whom most are over 50 years of age. The closure of U.S. border and the potential for it to remain closed for another summer means another high season is at risk. The niche nature of these businesses and reliance on relationships with clients means that they cannot quickly be replaced if they choose to close. And once these lodges do close down, they may spend several years actually not operating if they ever reopen again. They represent a potential long-term or permanent loss of a unique resource for Manitoba. A 50% loss of hunting and fishing lodges would cost the province some $33 million in business sales, more than 400 jobs, and some $5 million in annual provincial and local tax revenues. Churchill's tourism experiences are also under threat. Not only as a destination that relies heavily on international visitors, but as a community that relies heavily on the visitor economy to support the town's livelihood. Churchill has approximately 300 hotel rooms and a population of just over 800 people. That is 33 hotel rooms for every 100 residents. Now, compared to that, as a province, we have over 14,000 hotel rooms and a population of some 1.3 million, or one room for every 100 residents. That said, tourism may be 30 times more important for Churchill compared to the rest of the province. And while this is a rough estimate, it is quite possible that tourism supports more than half of all the wages in Churchill, plus the ripple effect that tourism has on the entire Churchill economy will also be impacted. The government of Manitoba has released its vaccination rollout plan based on the availability of vaccine supply. And our marketing of tourism experiences to markets beyond that of Manitoba will align with the vaccine implementation plan. Under their low range scenario, the plan is to have all adults over the age of 18 years, including priority access for healthcare workers and other vulnerable populations, by the end of November of 2021. In their high range scenario, additional access to vaccines may mean that the general population could be vaccinated by the end of August. And here's hoping. So while the tourism industry here at home and around the world wait for the green light as vaccines are rolled out, Travel Manitoba is working to accelerate a new plan to guide the recovery and resilience of Manitoba's tourism industry. The new Manitoba Tourism Strategy, which is now with government for final approval, recognizes the far-reaching impacts of the pandemic and provides leadership to ensure our tourism sector recovers as quickly as possible. Travel Manitoba retained MMGY, an internationally recognized leader in the tourism sector, to consult with stakeholders throughout the province and revise the Manitoba Tourism Strategy. Their insights, along with trends in the tourism industry, are shaping this new strategy going forward. The impacts of the pandemic have not been evenly distributed, and recovery paths for business and destinations vary dramatically based on their location in the province, their market segments, and their regulations. Urban destinations such as Winnipeg and businesses which rely heavily on international markets, such as our operators that I mentioned in Churchill, have felt the brunt of COVID-19's impact. Shifting to a local audience is often not a viable solution for these businesses and therefore require further government relief and assistance. That said, the big question facing the industry is who can survive on local tourism and who can't? The answer to this question will dictate very different recovery paths and strategies. Restoring consumer confidence and providing assurance to residents and visitors alike will be the critical challenge from a marketing and messaging perspective. The short-term focus must be appealing to Manitobans to explore their own backyard in order to build confidence in the visitor economy. And as visitor confidence builds, we can begin actively promoting Manitoba and Winnipeg to the rest of the world, of course, when COVID restrictions allow. However, it will be essential to maintain a presence in international markets in order to quickly activate efforts in these markets when the opportunity arises. Our Manitoba Canada's Heartbeats brand is well positioned to appeal to travelers in the current environment. And the perception of Manitoba as a safe destination with an abundance of outdoor recreation opportunities is good news for the province and an advantage for us going forward. An opportunity also exists to continue to build off the success of Travel Manitoba's place branding work to help communities, both large and small, maximize on their tourism potential. Now, only 35% of Manitobans feel confident that they can travel safely in the current environment, and roughly 9 in 10 say the travel experiences they are seeking have changed as a direct result of COVID-19. And low consumer confidence means people are postponing purchase decisions. but in this case, the familiar also becomes more valuable. One way to support restoring consumer confidence is to communicate to visitors the steps you are taking to ensure their safety. The Manitoba Tourism Education Council, or MTEC, is offering a free enhanced cleaning program. The Clean It Right program is being accessed by hospitality businesses across the country, and it provides relevant training to staff along with peace of mind for customers who see the Clean It Right decal in a business's window. We know there are other organizational programs that businesses have put in place to promote consumer safety. After these kinds of training and other safety programs have been put in place, make sure that you are providing this information to your customers. Put this information on your website and your social media feeds, and be sure to update your listing with Travel Manitoba to include this valuable information that consumers are now looking for. The new Manitoba tourism strategy will aim to provide a foundation for advancing tourism growth in the province by addressing key future trends. These include the need to build the capacity of operators to do business online. E-commerce is projected to grow by 20%. And as we are planning, recovery efforts require a shift towards local audiences and the need to connect like-minded visitors with locals. As well, there is a growing demand for experiences that are transformational, that are safe, and with a focus on the outdoors. The road to rebuilding consumer confidence in travel will be long, but the consultants we have hired suggest that money-back guarantees and discounts will help drive bookings. Events are rethinking their business models and success factors. To that end, Travel Manitoba will continue to play a strong role in advocacy and place even more emphasis in aligning industry and government stakeholders. The new growth targets for the updated Manitoba tourism strategy are aggressive, aiming to recover to 2019 levels by 2024, and then aggressively work to generate a 50% growth in tourism spending by the year 2030. Successful execution of the Manitoba tourism strategy proposed initiatives has the potential to mitigate economic and business losses in Manitoba's tourism industry because of COVID-19 and generate transformative economic benefits for the province. Prior to the pandemic, we were on track to achieving $2.2 billion in tourism revenues by the year 2022. And this new strategy forecasts that with sustained investment in tourism, we have the potential, as I said earlier, to realize a $2.5 billion in tourism spending by the year 2030. And now it is my great pleasure to turn the webinar this morning over to Brigitte Sandron, Senior Vice President, Strategy and Business Development with Travel Manitoba. Brigitte, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Colin. Good morning, everyone. As our marketing Okay, thank you, Colin. Good morning, everyone. As our marketing efforts in the short term focus on recovery, the new Manitoba tourism strategy will position our industry for future growth. Travel Manitoba has been doing a significant amount of research that will provide a solid foundation for future growth. This includes a study evaluating ways to improve the visitor experience in provincial and national parks. We're also looking at the development of a province-wide event strategy, and a competitive analysis that will form the basis of that strategy is near completion. And we are also investing in support of a province-wide directional signage and wayfinding program. We know that globally competition will be fierce as the industry starts to recover, and we are exploring ways that Travel Manitoba can support industry in improving its competitiveness. We hope that you joined us for our digital competitive conference earlier this week, where experts shared some terrific insights on digital marketing, content marketing, and e-commerce. If you were not able to attend this conference, a recording is available on our website. Destinations International recently completed a strategy for advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion in the tourism sector. Travel Manitoba recognizes that these are important issues for our industry, And from April 6th to 8th, we will be hosting a virtual conference to provide you with insights into these important topics. We have booked a lineup of fantastic speakers for this event, so please stay tuned for details coming soon. Travel Manitoba also continues to market and support the development of key differentiators that make Manitoba stand out in the marketplace. These include Indigenous tourism, Francophone tourism, winter, human rights-based awareness experiences, and water-based experiences. We are extremely proud of our relationship with the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada and the establishment of the new Manitoba Indigenous Tourism Association. And we continue to collaborate with SEDEM and Tourism Riel to deliver the goals of our Francophone tourism strategy. Delivering on the new Manitoba tourism strategy will be key to rebuilding a solid base for short-term recovery and long-term growth. We need to work together to rebuild better than before. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to Linda Whitfield, Vice President of Marketing and Communications.
Thank you, Brigitte. As you've already heard, the focus on short-term recovery means a focus on local audiences. Our marketing efforts will depend on and align with current public health orders and any travel restrictions. Our primary target market will be Manitoba, both Winnipeggers traveling outside the city and trying to attract rural Manitobans to travel to Winnipeg. It is unlikely that we will be able to market to other provinces before June 2021. But if and when we can, we'll look to expand our campaign to reach Saskatchewan, Northwest Ontario, and Alberta, again, all aligned with any travel restrictions. Our upcoming campaign will build on the Home is Where the Heart Is theme that resonated strongly with locals last summer and last fall. We are also supporting Tourism Winnipeg's Here For It campaign, leveraging our audiences to extend key messages. Our spring and summer campaign has the goal to increase awareness and access to information with specific promotion of road trips. We've created 18 itineraries that we'll be promoting through a variety of media to get Manitobans excited to explore the province this summer. We have a robust campaign plan that includes content and digital marketing, media relations, print, television, and radio. Our campaign also includes this year a partnership with Expedia to drive awareness and hotel room bookings. And as always, our goal is to drive leads to you, our partners, to close the sale. And on that note, I'm going to turn the floor over to Melanie Swinarchuk.
Thank you, Linda. It's my pleasure to lead Travel Manitoba's partnership team, working closely with Lindsay Egan and Michelle Lariviere. And we look forward to meeting with you virtually over the coming months. While we have laid out a plan for our 2021 marketing activities, we know that those plans may change and we are ready to adapt as needed. We know that 2020 was an extremely difficult year for our partners, and while we can now see a path forward, the future is anything but certain. To support our partners through recovery, we are pleased to offer our 2021 partnership opportunities at no cost to partners. You will be offered marketing opportunities at no cost based on your 2020 partnership investment levels. Our teams are looking forward to meeting with you to create your customized partnership plan. For those partners based in Winnipeg, we are pleased to be meeting with you jointly with Tourism Winnipeg. And for any tourism businesses who did not partner with us last year, be sure to contact the partnership team at Travel Manitoba, and we'll be happy to review the options with you. Our partnership opportunities are running from April to December, and we are offering many of the same opportunities as previous years, with options in content and digital marketing, along with print and dedicated offerings for our fish hunt sector. We also have options for our travel trade partners as we maintain a presence in our international markets to keep Manitoba top of mind. There is the potential to offer more opportunities as markets open and new opportunities arise. The current list of opportunities is now available on our website, and Lindsay, Michelle, and I will be reaching out to set up meetings to arrange your customized partnership plan for 2021. You're also always welcome to reach out to us should you have any questions moving forward. We look forward to providing value as we rebuild Manitoba's tourism industry. I believe we now have some time to answer questions, and I'll turn it to you, Mitch. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Melanie. So as Melanie said, we will have time now to answer some questions. So feel free to send them using the question pane in the GoToWebinar platform. Donc, nous allons maintenant prendre le temps de répondre à vos questions. I would also like to welcome Ryan Suffron, our Fish and Hunt consultant, who will be able to answer any fish and hunt related questions. I'll now pass it over to Brigitte Sandron, who will help to moderate the questions today.
Thank you, Michelle. So we have had some people ask if the presentation will be available, and yes, we will be sending out the presentation along with a recording of this webinar to everyone. All right, Colin, can you tell us when you think that international travel may be resuming?
That's a very difficult question. I don't have a crystal ball here. I think much of this is going to depend on how fast vaccinations roll out, both in the province of Manitoba and in other international markets that are looking to inbound travel. At this point in time, I think it would be unlikely to see the U.S. border open anytime before June. But again, we do not have a crystal ball on this one, and we're hoping that that's going to happen. But I think a lot of that's going to be dependent on how fast the province's vaccine program rolls out here in the province of Manitoba, and how fast people are being vaccinated in other parts of the world, specifically in the U.S.
This one's for the partnership team. Are there any new opportunities this year that we haven't seen in prior years?
There are a couple of new opportunities. With the launch of our new website comes new digital placements and within different categories. On the digital side, we are launching a road trips guide, which will be a new print publication. And I think as well on the content side, TikTok will be a new one as well. And we'll, as Linda had mentioned, and as markets open, we'll obviously be adding as the year progresses. Did I leave anything out, Lindsay?
No, I think that's great. I also did want to mention on the fish hunt side, Ryan's team has developed a couple new opportunities on their end as well to bring in some more content and video and editorials. So there's some great opportunities there as well.
Right. Colin, do you have any insights into whether Manitobans will require proof of vaccination for international visitors?
Can you repeat that? I'm not sure I got all of that question.
Do you have any insight as to whether visitors will require proof of vaccination to visit Manitoba?
Here again, it's still early days, but it is anticipated that people will have some kind of documentation which will allow them to travel, indicating that they have been vaccinated. I think that is probably a good safety protocol, and I think that probably will happen. Again, it's all going to be dependent on how fast people can be vaccinated, both in the province and outside.
Okay. This is a question about the U.S. border and whether we have any insight into what they were getting some feedback. Ryan, could you try turning your mute on? Do we have any insights as to whether the borders, so the drive-to borders at Emerson and at Pembina, will they be requiring any testing for customers from the U.S.? I don't think we've heard anything about that. Colin, have you heard?
No, we've got no information on that at this point. These are obviously things that we have certainly heard from the industry. We're hearing it from other parts of the country as well. This is something that the industry would really welcome and would really like. When you look at the opportunity, I know that we've got a number of people on the line here today in the fishing and hunting camps, relying very heavily on U.S. visitation. That would obviously be of a considerable benefit to those operators in allowing the opportunity for customers to come over the border. But at this point in time, we have been given no guidance on that. And as we indicated in the presentation, we are following very closely along with all of the pandemic restrictions that the government is putting in place, and we will open up our marketing as restrictions are lifted.
All right, Linda, this one is asking, will Travel Manitoba still be publishing written materials such as the Inspiration Guide or other publications?
We won't be publishing an inspiration guide this year. We're publishing a couple of things though. One is the road trips guide that we will be putting out. There will be 200,000 copies distributed of that by direct mail. So that piece, and that will be cross-promoted. We have a partnership actually with CAA Magazine. So CAA Magazine is going to promote those road trips as well in their May issue. And so that road trips guide will be publishing, and then we will be publishing a small guide that we will have in our visitor information center, just for ideas on some of our highlights. But it won't be a major publication like the Inspiration Guide was in past years. But the road trips guide will really be the focus for the spring-summer campaign.
Great. We had a question wondering if we were going to be setting up an online chat or a one-stop shop where people could get itineraries and that sort of thing for their travel planning.
We've looked at online chat in the past, and with our travel counselors, we felt that the fact that we have travel counselors has really superseded the need for us to do the online chat. So our travel counselors are available to answer questions, both online and over the phone and in person. So no, that's not something we're exploring at this time.
All right, Melanie, the regional tourism associations and the other DMOs throughout the province, will there be marketing packages for them, or is this all an a la carte menu?
There will be more of an a la carte menu, and we'll be reaching out to each one of them to set up a meeting with each of the regional tourism associations to customize a marketing program for them.
Thank you. Many of our summer and fall bookings are from international and out of province visitors who were forced to postpone their 2020 trips. It's preventing this business from taking bookings from Manitobans at the moment. Any recommendations on what they should do? Should they be releasing those bookings? Colin, do you want to provide advice on this?
Well, that's a tough one, and I feel the pain of the operators who are looking at this question. We're really hoping that we're going to see, if we're thinking about, say, Churchill, for example, that we might see some international customers coming in for the polar bear season. The beluga whale season, I just don't have enough confidence to suggest that the international markets will be open by that time. I think it's unlikely. That said, holding an international customer, which would block a Manitoba customer if in fact we can do the job of pushing and encouraging more Manitobans to travel north or to travel to other places within the province, is a key opportunity going forward. So postponing them for another year, I regret to say that I think some of the international customers will probably be contacting you anyway with an effort to postpone for another year. But here again, we do not have a crystal ball. We will make sure that whatever information we do get, we'll get to industry's hands immediately. But I just think it seems highly unlikely that we're going to see, U.S. customers coming in for, spring fishing and for beluga whales. Hopefully that's not the case.
If I can just add to that, Colin, we've heard from Destination Canada and the in-market that Australians will definitely not. The Australian market will definitely not be traveling. So if you're holding bookings for the Australian, New Zealand sectors, our understanding is that they will not be traveling at this year at all. And there's obviously pent-up demand for the other markets, but that one we understand for sure will not be traveling.
Now, if there is a bit of a silver lining, and it's a small one, Manitoba has been more resilient than virtually every other province in terms of encouraging Manitobans to travel within their own province. We were able to move some Manitobans into Churchill last year for polar bears. We anticipate that we will be able to do the same thing, and we are certainly going to make every effort to encourage people to take the opportunity to travel north. We do know that people went to many of the drive-to resorts and to the drive-to fishing camps, and our golf courses were packed, our trails were full, and we anticipate that we're going to see a repeat of that this summer. Manitobans are becoming well aware of what Manitoba has to offer, and maybe that one of the silver linings in all of this is that we will have turned Manitobans into ambassadors to travel within their own province. They represent about 75% of our total visitation on a pre-COVID basis. They also represent close to 60% of the total revenues. But we are also well aware, and we fully understand the impact that is being felt by many operators out there who rely so heavily on international visitation, and in some cases virtually 100%. So we're well aware of the challenges there, but we are certainly up to the challenge to try to move more Manitobans around this province and into opportunities the likes that Churchill offers.
Right. Colin, you spoke to the threats to fishing and hunting. Is there any plan for bridge support for this sector from any level of government? And how does hunting and fishing relate with the anticipated earlier recovery of rural tourism?
In regards to financial support, I haven't talked recently to DJ, but I understand that there may be some financial support coming, and we can certainly check out that. Brigitte, what was the second part of the question?
How does the early recovery of rural tourism, so you spoke about that a little bit in your presentation, how does that relate to the fishing and hunting sector?
Well, I think we're going to look at this in two ways. One is going to be the drive-to fishing and hunting facilities versus the fly-in. Those who are interested in fishing and they're making bookings, I think it's going to be, again, a repeat of 2020 this year. So from what we have heard that some of the operators at drive-to resorts did very well and had very good seasons last year. I anticipate that they will see a repeat. For the fly-ins, I think it's just going to be so much more difficult for us to encourage Manitobans to do it. It's something that they historically have not taken advantage of to the degree that the international customers have. We will, through Ryan and our fish hunt team, though, keep you well informed on every shred of information that we can get from government. And I would also ask the fishing and hunting industry, if you have questions, they may be specific to your operation or they may be more general, get those questions through to Ryan or to Kevin or to Marcel, or you can send them directly into myself, and we will try to get answers for you as fast as we can.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions. Colin, what do you think we should look forward to over the next 6 months?
Well, that's a tough question. I think it's an easier one to answer than it was last year, but I've been using this the analogy that the light at the end of the tunnel is no longer a train coming towards us. It is in fact vaccinations, and the faster we can vaccinate Manitoba, and the faster the U.S. market directly below us and the faster international markets can be vaccinated, the faster we can start to encourage more inbound and outbound travel. And So I think the positive signs are, as I said earlier in my comments, the best case scenario in terms of vaccination rollout would see things happening to completion by the end of summer. Failing that, it's going to be closer to the end of 2021. But the hope is that we can vaccinate people as fast as possible and be in step with the U.S. and other international markets. One of the fears that we do have is if the international markets, particularly the U.S., is vaccinated well in advance of us, there could be resident sentiment against having Americans coming into Canada. And that's a situation that we don't want to have happen. We want to make sure that we're being vaccinated at the same rate. So when Americans are ready to come back and hunt and fish our waters and visit Winnipeg or what have you, that we have the opportunity to welcome them. So it is fundamental that this vaccination program rolls out as fast as possible. There was some encouraging news from the federal government this morning talking about access to vaccines that could see all Canadians vaccinated at some point in the summer. These are really early days in terms of vaccination inventory. And we don't know what percentage of that is going to be is going to find its way to Manitoba, but the key is to get Manitobans vaccinated as fast as possible. So the silver lining, or the one thing that I'm looking for this year that we weren't looking for last year, is that vaccination rollout program. There's a solution on the horizon, and with proper vaccinations, and regardless of whether we're talking about Manitoba, neighboring provinces, or in the US, our economy will continue to open and consumer confidence will return.
Thank you, Colin. We have a number of questions that just came in. So here's one. Knowing how booked Manitoba resorts, cabins, campgrounds were last summer, does Travel Manitoba have any plans to start to recognize and help profile Airbnb establishments that are in rural areas and include some incredible spaces? Linda, do you want to take that one?
Well, we typically do not include Airbnbs in our marketing, simply because of the competitive strain that they put on traditional hotels and resorts. We are we're constantly looking at the impact of the sharing economy on the tourism industry, and we do research in that area to look at the issues. But in terms of profiling in our marketing, no, we are not looking at that at this point.
It has not been a criteria in the past. I think it's something, reading between the lines with Linda's comments, I think it's something we would look at. We know that many of the resorts were absolutely sold out, and many of them are sold out again. Campgrounds are going to be under siege. Golf courses are under siege. Trails. So that's a very good question. I think that's something we might take a closer look at. So we haven't traditionally done that for a number of reasons, as Linda indicated, but we'll have a look at that.
Okay, someone was asking for the dates of the Diversity, Inclusiveness, and Anti-Racism Conference, and that one is April 6th to 8th, and we'll be sending out a notice very shortly on that one. I have a question here on the quality of restaurant and restroom services in pandemic conditions for travelers. I think people might be concerned about that, and we will continue to raise that with Manitoba Infrastructure. What's the forecast for camping season in Manitoba? Anyone have any answers to that one?
Sorry, I missed the question. I think we're getting feedback again.
What's the forecast for camping season in Manitoba? I mean, from everything we've heard from parks, it's going to be very strong. Mel, have you heard anything else?
No, I believe it's going to be very strong. I think the campground bookings open up in April, and I think they're anticipating a similar program to the past. It should be strong.
Yeah, I would anticipate very, very strong. There's going to be a tremendous amount of demand to get, capacity is an issue. The tourism industry has not been built to deal with a pandemic situation where all Manitobans are eager to travel within their own province. So, you know, from a capacity perspective, when these lodges and resorts start to fill up, there isn't a whole lot of others, and I would anticipate as well that we're going to see huge stress placed on the on parks. If you're looking at buying a bike or getting a Sea-Doo or a swimming pool installed this year, I mean, these are going to be real challenges as they were last year. So pre-planning as best you can and encouraging customers to pre-plan. I'm sure that there are some on the call that are already seeing strong bookings in the summer, and I'm hoping that to be the case. But Manitobans, and you know, we've said this many times, this is by no means a default position. Manitoba's got great offerings and great tourism offerings. And people, Manitobans, for the first time, for many, are returning to places they went to in their youth, or they're going to places that they'd never seen before. And the silver lining here is the fact that Manitobans are now beginning to recognize that Manitoba is a wonderful tourism destination, and they're becoming ambassadors for their own province from a tourism perspective. So a small silver lining there, small win, but there you have it.
Brigitte, I just wanted to point out that there are various questions coming in, and we'll try our best to answer as many as we can, but the ones that we don't, we'll try to give you an answer after this, just so you know. I'm seeing some questions about that.
All right, Linda, do you think Manitoba 150 celebrations will still be planned or considered?
Yes, we're working in conjunction with the Manitoba 150 team, in cooperation with them to reactivate some of the activities that they had planned. They have a schedule of modified events, again, aligned with group gathering sizes and things like that, that will take place roughly between May and September of this year. So you'll see more promotion on that from the Manitoba 150 group coming up.
All right. Colin, this is a tough one. Is Travel Manitoba base funding secure? The previous model that rewarded Travel Manitoba's budget would increase as the sector increased. Seamless of an advantage now.
For those of you on the call, you know full well that we operate on a plan called Plan 95.5, where 95% of the tax-based revenues generated by the tourism industry remain with government and 5% go to Travel Manitoba to fund the province's marketing initiatives going forward. The one benefit that we have right now is that we are looking and we continue to operate on numbers that are 2 years in arrears. So we will be working, we're anticipating to be our budget for the 21-22 year to be based on 2018's tourism numbers, which were bullish. And next year, even more so bullish. So while we do not have anything definitive at this point in time, we are anticipating that in recognition of the fact that the tourism industry is such a key contributor to Manitoba's economic fabric, that we are very hopeful that we are going to see our funding remain, which means that we will continue to operate as we have in the past. We are, as Lindsay and Melanie and Michelle had indicated, going to be offering our partnership opportunities at no cost this year, which does result in a significant impact to our budget overall, but we recognize it's the right thing to do and the right move to make, given many of the partners are feeling the stress that the pandemic has placed on them. So we're hopeful as soon as we find out, and it won't be long. Our year end is March 31st, and we anticipate we will find out before or shortly thereafter. We have asked to maintain Plan 95.5 levels, and we're hopeful that that will happen.
All right. Is the road trip guide focused on spring and summer? And will there be a matching fall winter guide for 2021? Linda, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yes, the road trip guide is focused on spring and summer, and the plans for our fall campaign have not been totally finalized. We may in fact include one. It's certainly more appealing to take a road trip on clear roads in the spring and summer, but if it's popular and successful, we will certainly look at that as well.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think that's all the time we have for questions today. Michelle, do you want to close us off?
Yeah, well, we just wanted to thank you, everyone. Like we mentioned, we'll try to answer all the questions, as many as we can after. We'll send them directly over to you. Donc, merci à tous pour votre participation à ce webinaire. The recording will be available and we will send it out after this. So thank you again. Merci encore et bonne journée à tous. Have a great day.